So how in the world does somebody making $250,000 a year not become a millionaire after 10 or 12 years of making that kind of money? You would think that well over 90% of people earning that kind of money would be millionaires after a decade or so. But you know what? You'd be surprised. Very few people in that category are actually millionaires. In fact, multiple studies have shown us that almost half of everybody making over $100,000 a year is not only not saving money, but they're not saving a dime. They're not saving anything. And so why is that? So as a fee-only financial advisor for over 20 years, I've come up with my 3 rules. I call them Azul's 3 rules for building wealth. And the first one is, I don't care how much money that you make, you have to spend less than what you earn. The second rule is one house, no vacation house, no second house somewhere else. So it's spend less than you earn, one house. The third is one spouse. So those are the basics. And people making good money, like $250,000 plus a year, they're suffering from those same basics. And the first one is spending less than what you earn. It's really easy when you start making, for people that are making that kind of money, to start spending that kind of money. And they have lifestyle creep on steroids. Their lifestyle creep has a name, and his name is Arnold. And Arnold has been on the juice. And they're spending too much. And they're spending it in ways that are building and creating liabilities for them as opposed to assets. It's one thing if you're spending your money buying rental properties that are going to be providing cash flow streams, or investing in companies, startup companies that have a lot of potential that, maybe down the road are going to hit a home run for you. It's one thing to spend it on that. It's another thing to spend it on expensive vacation, expensive cars, upgrading to first class on every trip that you make, things like that. So the first one is just, candidly, they're just spending too much. The second one is, unfortunately, where a lot of these high-paying jobs tends to be in areas where there's a very high cost of living. So yes, they're making good money. Maybe they're, in this example, making $250,000. But if they're living in San Francisco, if they're living in New York City, if they're living in a high-cost area, rent can be super high. The cost of living can be super high. Even you look at a house, a house in like San Francisco or the New York City area, buying a $1.5 million house, that's an expensive house. But it doesn't get you the type of house that many of us would think that it does. And so if you have $1 million mortgage, and according to Mortgage News Daily, which is a site I go to for mortgage rates, as I record this, the current mortgage rate is 6.7% for a flat 30-year mortgage. $1 million mortgage, that's $6,500 a month just for your principal and your interest. Then you got to put on top of that property tax. Place like California, it's 1%. Other states are higher than 1%. So $1.5 million house, that's a lot of money. And then homeowners insurance. And depending on where you live, like in Florida, homeowners insurance is getting very expensive just because of all the storms that are coming through there now. A lot of the insurers have pulled out, and people are forced to use the insurer of last resort, which is the state's homeowners insurance provider. So the cost of home ownership can be very expensive, as are other things. The next thing is sometimes there's discretionary spending, right? Taking expensive vacations and buying expensive things. But then some of these jobs have the expectation that you're going to look the part. If you're a partner at a law firm, if you're a partner at a consulting firm, if you're with one of the big banking firms, you're expected to have an expensive suit. You're expected to wear an expensive watch. You're expected to drive an expensive car. So there's kind of keeping up with the Joneses, again, on steroids, which is kind of a theme here, right? Not only is their pay on steroids, but so are their expenses. And one of the things that really drives up your spending is trying to keep up with the Joneses. So not only are they living in an expensive city like San Francisco oftentimes, or New York City, places where these high-paying jobs tend to be. But then they're living, in the best neighborhoods. And when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and by the way, the Joneses might be your source of future clients, it takes on a whole new meaning. Keeping up and going to the right country club, things like that. And I know that doesn't engender a lot of empathy from folks, and I get that, but there's kind of an unwritten requirement, a rule of the game for certain industries and certain trades. Now, some people are more susceptible to it than others. When I was in business school, I worked for a company that over the summer, this was just an intern, I rode my bicycle to the office, but it was a management consulting firm, and they literally sent a stretch limousine to my 2-bedroom apartment that I was, paying as little money as I could in rent. I think back then I was paying like $700 a month in rent, which felt like it was a lot of money, but my wife and I shared a car. We only had one car, which is why I rode my bike in the summer to my job. But they sent a stretch limousine to take me to the airport for these different assignments. And, as somebody between my first and second year in business school, that was accepted. But I could see where, if I had joined that firm full time, where there'd be an expectation that I would no longer be living in the student end of town, I'd be living in the costly end of town. So keeping up with the Joneses potentially being your clients is another one. Okay, another thing is folks in this category tend to work a lot of hours, as do a lot of us. So this isn't an excuse for somebody, but they're making good money, they have a high pressure job, and they don't have a lot of time. So when they go on vacation, maybe they upgrade to first class, maybe they pay 2 or 3 times the cost so that they have an ocean view hotel room as opposed to, walking around the corner to see the ocean like I would do. So there's all of these expectations put on folks. And then when it comes to relax, they kind of work hard, play hard. And so they get into that category as well. So we talked about expensive cities. We talked about the mortgage. We talked about just the cost of keeping up with the Joneses. And I think another thing that a lot of folks in that category suffer from is not only the expensive vacations, but they have more money than they do time. And I'm a fan of buying experiences and investing in experiences as opposed to buying stuff. But adventures take time. And when you're short on time, when there's a lot of pressure maybe to not take all of your vacation, when there's pressure on you to continue to work even when you're supposed to be unplugging and taking vacation. Now, all that said, go back to the basics. Spend less than what you earn. I can share with you. I'm doing this YouTube video. I've got multiple clients that I work with that have millions and millions of dollars. I've been fortunate enough. I know several billionaires as well. And, I am who I am. So I'm comfortable with that. And I think part of what folks in this situation need to do is just, not to accept these unwritten rules. Just say, that's not who I am. That's not my game. And also another thing they can do is they can watch this video up here where I talk about why looking poor is important. If you want to really be a millionaire, that's how to do it. I'll see you in that video.